I'm in the back room here. I'm going to set up the sprayer. So if you want to spray paint, if you want to just air spray some glaze onto your project, and you don't, and let's say you have something that's really big and it's tough to dip, spraying might be a good option. So I'm just going to do a sample project, an old mug here. I'm gonna spray that. This is kind of all the parts that you're going to need. So first of all, we have the sprayer. Normally this is set up, and this should be clean. I'll remind you at the end, you want to really make sure you clean this off when you're done. And this is hooked up to a compressed air line. You don't really have to mess around with any of the settings in the back here. We have enough air pressure, and that's good to go. This is all set up in a spray booth. You know, there's silica in the glaze. You probably don't want to breathe in a ton of that stuff. So I do have a little switch down here to turn on the air filtration system. It's just kind of loud. There we go. So now you know it's working. So if you hear that sound, you know the air is being pumped out of there, so it's safe for you to spray in the spray booth. I grabbed a banding wheel because you don't really want to touch your project much once it's in there. So I got a banding wheel here in place so that once I get my project in place, I can just rotate it and try to spray it evenly. So the first thing I'm going to do is fill this up with some glaze. So let's go out here now. Actually, I'm going to take this jar off. So this lefty-loosey. Now I have this jar. And I'm going to fill this up with some, we're going to use iron red or rust red. So now I'm going to take this jar and I'm going to fill it up with some of this iron red. That was the glaze of choice here. So I'm going to mix this up. I want to make sure it passes the fingertip test, so let me dip my finger in. See, that looks pretty good because it coats my finger. It's not too watery, and I can see the shadow of my fingernail. Okay, so I'm going to scoop out some of this glaze. Got myself a jar full of glaze. I got to make sure it doesn't have any big chunks or anything like that in it. That could clog up the components of the sprayer. Okay, so now we're back here. All right, so we're back here now. I'm going to take that glaze that I just scooped up. It's mixed up pretty well right now, and I'm going to screw that on to the spray gun, righty-tighty. There we go. There you go. So, and now I'm just going to test it off to the side. And you can see right now it's not spraying. I don't know if you can tell that, but I'll just do it on my hand there. So what that tells me is that this spray nozzle is a little clogged up right now. So what we got to do is fix that. So I'm going to take this jar of water off and clean this out. So to be continued. So what I did is I got myself a bucket full of clean water. We're going to try to clean this out. Seems like it's working out, so you can tell. Now it's spraying some of the water, so I got it's pulling liquid out of the end of this, and I can tell when I put it in the water that it is spraying now. So just a little bit of clean water, and I think we got that cleared out now. There we go. So hopefully there's no more flopping going on. I'm not talking about the CNG dancing. Okay. Good. So now, I don't know if you can see that on TV. Now we're getting spray. So we got the mechanism all cleaned out. We got this loaded with iron red, and now it's time to apply our glaze. So when you're doing this, kind of like a spray can, you don't want to just spray directly on there and just like right in the middle and hold it in. You kind of want to go back and forth. I normally start off the project and then back and forth. And you'll have to guesstimate a little bit as far as like layers. Some of this through experience, you learn like what it looks like when you got enough coats on. Well, what I've noticed that the most common mistake is that you don't get enough glaze on. So I'd almost err on the side of too much. Does that make sense? Especially this iron red goes on Really nice if you got two solid coats. Remember to have the air filtration system going Okay, so I feel like I got two solid coats on here now. So basically, I do not start spraying on the project. I start off to the side and then back and forth. And you got to repeat yourself a few times to get enough coverage. Once you feel like you have one coat, let it totally dry and then repeat. You probably want to have two coats of glaze for it to look good. So here I feel like I got two coats of iron red. So now I just got to let this dry. Make sure the base is clean. I'll put this in the kiln room. But a couple important things about this is we got to make sure we clean this up. So removing the cap, this one's still full of glaze. So all of that glaze can get poured right back into the bucket that we got it from. And then of course, having this bucket handy of clean water so that we can clean this off. There we go. So let's get all of those moving parts cleaned up. Try to spray water through this a few times just to make sure that glaze doesn't dry on the inside. So this tiny little pipe, glaze can get in there. If it dries, it really clogs it up. So normally after I rinse it off a little bit, I just hold this under the water and spray it so that, and sometimes I'll even fill this one up with clean water and just kind of spray it out. You just want to make sure none of that glaze can clog those little moving parts. Those little pipes. So I feel like I got that cleaned out pretty well. Somebody else is about to use this iron red. So we're going to put that cap right back on. Righty tighty, lefty loosey. So again, number one, pick out the colors you want. Make sure it's mixed up properly without any big chunks that could clog the mechanism. Number three, get yourself set up with a banding wheel, your project, and make sure you understand how to turn on this air filtration system. And then the next step is just applying it. Just like I showed you, don't spray directly on your project. Start off to the side and back and forth at about 6 to 8 inches away from your project. Try to give it two solid coats, and when you're done, it's really important that you clean up this mechanism, that spraying mechanism, to make sure it doesn't get clogged. So this is a great option if you have a project too big to dip. Okay,